to Innovation Makes You Sexy podcast, the only podcast that takes a look under the covers of corporate innovation, its do's, its don'ts, and the secrets to its success. The Innovation Makes You Sexy podcast is brought to you by Duco Innovation Ecosystem Design. I am your host, Liron Glickman from The Human Factor. And today, I'm so honored to have Chef Einav Gefen. She's the corporate executive chef of Unilever Food Solutions in North America. Hi, Einav. How are you?
Hi, Liron. I like the sexy intro.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Today, we're going to talk about how to innovate in an influential industries as food services and the challenges and responsibilities that comes with it. So I have to say, before we jump in, that you're not the typical innovator that I get to talk to, that's one of the reasons why I know this interview is going to be so exciting, because you're really going to give us a different point of view on innovation. Being a chef is really about creativity and innovation, eventually mixing and matching, putting recipes together. So what would you say the secret to being a good chef is?
Wow, I think creativity is part of it. People say, oh my God, chef is an artist. Yes, of course there is an artisanal part to it, because there is a creation process, but there is also a lot of skills honing, a lot of perfection, because we don't create something new necessarily every day. Mm-hmm. So you really have to perfect it. There is a lot of consistency at play. And often if you're in a restaurant, or it doesn't matter if you're a corporate environment, there is leadership at stake and sometimes business management. So, being a chef is really, really something much more complex than just getting in the kitchen and throwing something together. And I think that's what differentiates, is being able to hone those skills and play on them for success.
How was the transition for you from a restaurant standpoint to a big corporate? Because the transition for me, the corporate job came as a surprise. So it's nothing that I looked for. It kind of fell in my lap. And I think as a person, in retrospect, I don't think you see it while you're walking, but in retrospect, where it's 2020, right? Hindsight is always 2020. But I'm a person that says that if the world throws something in your lap, you at least owe it the obligation of looking at it before dismissing. And this opportunity totally crossed my path by accident. And I did not even know that such a role exists for chef. For me, it was a clear path to a restaurant. When corporate role came, and I was like, what the heck is this? And it took me a while to understand the capacity of what the role is and then what the role can be. The more I heard, the more I wanted it. But the transition was mind-boggling, because you come from a world that you prep at lunch and you serve a dinner, and by the end of service, you know exactly if you did well or didn't do well. And throughout the service, people tell you, wow, amazing, good, great, send the plate back. You got pulse check within a matter of minutes. Totally different environment in a corporate world, when things are significantly slower, when obviously this is not about me. It's not about my food. It's about my end user, being the chef in a restaurant now that I work at the food service era, or my end consumer when I worked on retail. So it has nothing about what I think is needed or necessary, more about what my end user needs to be, or needs to eat, or needs for me to help them with. And along that process, you always have many people with different elements that you need to work with, sometimes manage, sometimes align with. It's not nothing you really do in a restaurant. You may align to an owner if you're not the chef owner. So I think the hardest transition for me was the route to market, the speed. Yeah. I'm like, really? Another meeting? We need to talk about it again? Let's do it. Let's do it. Exactly. I had to learn the whys and appreciate it and take a deep breath and become a little bit more patient, which probably not ingrained in my genes. And as you say, the dynamic of the job, of the work is so different. I think the patience, as you say, it seems like it's also a key element here, because also things take so long in a big corporate like Unilever, for example, from idea to market.
Yes, they take about 14 to 18 months. Mm-hmm. That's a normal route to market, from ideation to on-the-shelf product. Yeah. But every part of the process makes sense, because there's so many responsibilities. I think, we've discussed that in our preliminary call, in the sense, when I was asked about it for the first time,
You say, startup, why aren't you like a startup? Why can't you move faster? Unlike a software startup, we cannot launch a beta version. I cannot put an update there and say, tomato sauce is 80% there. The next jar is going to be just perfect. Just bear with me. Doesn't happen. Yeah. Because you pick something off the shelf. You are all consumers, right? You'll pick something, you'll try it for the first time. And if it's not like, wow, love it, you will never buy it again. I get only one chance. So it's got to be right. And it needs to win, because if my end consumer at the end doesn't like it for one reason or another, I won't get another chance on this one.
Where do you get your information about the next trends in the corporate food service world?
So my biggest innovation on the food service world is actually Knorr Intense Flavors. This is our concentrated flavor dimensions products that are total white space. Yeah. And when you're a big company, you have two options. Do you want to lead the trend, or do you want to follow a trend? Mm-hmm. And we try to be somewhere in the middle. And part of my job is to be out there and see what's going on, hear, listen, try to see by knowing the brands, knowing our operations, knowing what fits or what may not fit, come back and make a recommendation of what I see and how it may look like. A lot of it is just stepping out of this office and be in conferences, dining out, spending time with chefs, networking, obviously getting down and dirty, being in the kitchen, understanding techniques, understanding ingredients, and really leverage data and information more in the sense of as early as possible, because there are two types of trends. There is a trend that may last a week, a month, a year, and there are trends that may evolve into a movement. Yeah. And it's almost like a little bit looking at a crystal ball and trying to figure out, okay, what are the longer terms trend, or what is a trend that may play on a bigger stage that may be relevant more in a product type of an execution. If it's something that is just a blip on the radar, a week, a month, we can always respond with a recipe that we can blast through social media and our outlets.
Because eventually, you reach and impact hundreds of millions of people in a highly regulated industry. So you're talking about the trends and the movements. So what's more is it to kind of consider when you decide if this is a trend or this is a movement?
Well, first and foremost is, does it even fit within what we have? So if it's I would say yogurt, for example. So about a decade and a half ago, the Greek yogurt had a takeover on the United States. This is not something that we play in, and this is not something that we will play in. So yes, it's there. What you want to see is what within that realm of behavior of a consumer may fit our brand. Because now you don't consume your yogurt only in the morning for breakfast. Now it's your 4 o'clock, I want something sweet, or 10 p.m., I need something sweet and I don't want to, eat chocolate, right? And then you become creative and you say, okay, the shifting in behavior of consumption, it may not be yogurt, but it may fit some of our other brands, maybe ice cream, right? And play into that arena. So you're really looking at it not only from a one-dimension point of view, it's trying to analyze the drivers and the outcomes and see how it may fit. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. Then you make a note of it and you say, okay, guys, just keep an eye on that. At the moment, there is no space for us to play in, just to be aware. On the other end, you have items like transparency. So, which is now a movement. It's not a trend anymore, but it started from local sourcing, right? So the whole focus on where ingredients are being sourced from, all the way up now to the supply chain of how they're being processed from sourcing to consumption is not a trend anymore. And it led to a transparency in who do you work with, how does your plant work, and all the way up to waste. And that dictated a whole different way that is totally relevant for small and bigger players for us to be addressing. So I'm not doing it all by myself. I don't think in an era, it's very important. It's important to say, because in an era when so much is happening at the same time, and in my 20-something years in this industry, I have never seen so much happening everywhere at once. It was always ingredients, technique, cuisine. Now it's everywhere. Trends are not only coming from restaurants and chefs; they're coming from consumers. All the dietary restrictions, the gluten-free, the paleo, the keto. this is not driven by chefs. It's driven by diners. For example, it wasn't the case. You know, how many 20 years ago you would have gone to a restaurant and you would have said, hey, you know, I'm gluten-free. The chef would say, too bad, or vegetarian, order the salad. Right?
And it's great that it's different today, that there is more awareness, you know, in many countries around the globe. Which is,
absolutely. Yeah. Because it opens diversity, but it, you know, it all started from, you know, kind of conversation between the diners and the chefs. Everything is shifting at once. So you cannot really be a one-man gang in being the ears, the legs, the eyes in the industry. You need to cross-reference. I leverage my team a lot. And then our data, information, marketing here to kind of do a pulse check on if what we see is big enough. What I do, though, is try to look at things very early on before they're being picked up by the big data planners.
If I try to kind of make an example through looking at startups or, you know, other tech companies that I know, sometimes when it comes to the innovation in the company, there is what they call, you know, the ivory tower. So a few people, they know what the next innovation is. They are the generators for innovation. And if you take them out of the equation, there is no innovation. So what you say, first of all, is that you have a team and you are not the only innovator. But I also want to ask you in this regard, you were talking about the discussion between the chef and the diners. How much are you in touch with the end users?
First and foremost, I am the end user. Not always I cook the meal. Every now and then I do it as well. Very much so. I think that's the beauty of Unilever, that we also have the retail arm. So we are in touch of the consumers. And I think what's fascinating about the United States is that you have the coasts, Miami, New York, West Coast, which are one thing. And then you have everything in between, which is a totally different America. And to sit right next to New York and think that this is how America is, it's very sharp. You know, so it's being out there and do talk to people that for them, eating at Olive Garden is the highlight of their culinary experience. And it's not being judgmental. So you asked about the transition to a corporate, you know, you have to check your ego at the door. You know, each and every one of my team has to check the ego at the door, because I can cook something tomorrow that I think is the greatest thing ever. And, you know, my core project team will trash me. Say, no, this is like way too weird, way too out there. And you have to be able to say, yeah, you know what? It's true. You have to know your consumer at the end. So the end user being the diner as well. I sell now to the chefs, but they have to cater to the end diners. If I can connect the dots for them as well, what I see from my point of view, it's another added benefit that I bring to the table. There are always ideas. A lot of it is how we can utilize our current product. A lot of it is what it may mean, because what you see when you observe and what I'm looking for is tension points. I'm trying to see needs of my user, of things where I can make their life easier. And I think going back to the conversation of innovation, to me, in my mind, there are two realms of innovation. An idea that you may have for either a product or a flavor or technology that you feel very strongly about, that probably came because you wanted something and you didn't have it. You tried to do something and you didn't have the right tool, and said, what if I had a need that was yours, right? Where I'm going at, that there is a need that was yours, that you reflect upon and think that if it's my need, then it should be somebody else's as well. I come from the other direction of looking at somebody else's need and see how I can innovate and create for them. You know, so I think it depends where you are as an innovator or the type of the company you work with or work for, to see, you know, how do you approach innovation? Is it something that you created, protein bar, that obviously is a saturated market, but it started from somebody who said, I just want to ride my bicycle and be able to hold something in one hand while I'm doing my exercise that will give me a boost of nutrition in 3 bites, right? That opened the market. You know, nobody needed iPhone before. Nobody needed, we didn't really, somebody said, oh, that will be cool. And you create the need, or you create the awareness and the assumption that there is a need. And the other view of that is like, there is a real need. You go and look at people, you go and look at what they're doing and say, wow, if they only had X, it could have saved them an hour. It could have made it more consistent.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to look for when I'm out there. I'm trying to see what are the things that will make somebody's life easier from a food point of view, under what I can do, and how I can do it for them.
Yeah. And I think what you said is so crucial and so important for many types of corporates and companies that, that are trying or wanting to be more innovative. So this point of view, it's a great insight. So thank you. And let's take it a few, steps forward. So you have a product, you have the idea, that's what you want to do. Now it's more than just a product. So, there is a process of, talking to the production or suppliers or marketing division and actually sell it internally. So,
yes,
if you could share, how do you do it? So how do you change, for example, the current production line? How do you tell the production director to change the current production line for a product that, again, he doesn't know how it will be received by the audience? By the end user.
First, before you even get to a production line, there is a whole series of bringing something to life, really validating the need.
Yeah.
So the privilege that I have as a chef is actually, not only to ideate in theory, but also really create a prototype. And so you play on the whole sensorial experience of trying something. So it's not, what if we had XYZ? I can jump in the kitchen and say, hey, look at that. This is something I saw. This is something I heard. This is something I think, my end user may need. But this is how it can look like, or this is how it can taste like.
Yeah.
And you start a discussion over something that is more tangible than just an idea on paper. Then starts really assessment process of what is the size of the price. Certainly when we work, for a company like Unilever, it can't be something that is too niche. For us to go and create just the resources that we need in order to innovate, it needs to be big enough. And so, that's a fine line we walk, right? But we need to really assess the need, because the fact that I say, I think it's a need doesn't mean that it really is.
Yeah.
So we are testing it. We will be do some preliminary testing of the concept, and then we also back that idea with some data. If we do feel that an idea has legs in the market, now we're already have some good story to tell. Now starts a conversation of how it even may look like. What do we need? Do we have ingredients in-house? Do we need to start sourcing new things that we don't have? You have to engage procurement. Can we produce it with our current capabilities? Yes or no? No, what does it mean? Do we need to go to a third party? Do we need to invest in our production line? So every decision is an intersection. Mm-hmm. And this is a lot of the internal sell-in that needs to happen through conversations.
Yeah, which is very common in many countries, many companies that innovate. That's the process that actually, in a certain way, happens.
As it needs to happen. Yes, you can move faster. You need to know that when you move fast, you take risks. And it depends on the nature of the company. Some say, okay, I'm taking a risk, and some, say, I cannot take that risk. I cannot afford taking that risk for many reasons. It's not always financial. It's also your reputation. It's your brand halo. So you need to assess that very carefully. And yes, you need to line up, and different functions will have their different challenges. And you have to work with those challenges to, at the end, come to the best quality. Because when it comes to food, taste is king.
Yeah.
Whatever trend I see out there that is about health and wellness and wholesomeness and better for you and better you, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It needs to taste great.
Yeah.
And then everything is secondary to that. So, that will be my yay or nay.
So what portion of your work is dedicated to soft skills? And if you have any specific tips?
Well, I think it changes. It changes on the day, and it varies for the most part. A lot of it is, but I don't think it's any different in my environment than any environment per se. Soft skill, once you work with other people, soft skill is what takes the most. You need to be understanding. You need to know how to listen. You need to know when to push, and you need to know when to back off. Mm-hmm. In my, personal case, I also have a team, and so, to know how to lead people and are different personalities. Some of my team are introverts that are not as bubbly and outgoing as maybe I am.
Yeah.
And it's really to know not to impose that personality on somebody else in order to get the best out of them. So, you know, it's nothing to do with being a chef, everything to do with being a person. So,
yeah.
I think, and you learn as you go. I evolved dramatically in my 11 years here, because, you know, you learn what works, what doesn't work. And I think in good organization, you have a feedback system. And if you're open-minded and you take that feedback in, it just helps you grow.
Yeah. You know, a lot of challenges, like you see today, obviously more and more organizations and corporates around the world are becoming more and more innovative, but it's a process. So sometimes you have more openness to that. Sometimes it's only one or two person that are, you know, fighting the way to bring more innovation in. So if you could say, what are the do's and don'ts that you would recommend corporate innovation managers that are listening to us now to do?
I would say first and foremost, due diligence to the idea that you bring to the table. Again, what works for me in my environment is not coming and say, I, me, because again, it's not about what I need in my pantry. It's about what my end user needs in my pantry. So it's being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And when you start pitching an idea, make sure that you have as much information as you can. I also, you have to know who you pitch it to and who may be your big opponent or push back the most, and try and foresee what the pushback may be, and come ready to what those questions that may come up will be, and anticipate an answer, which is also okay to say, I don't have that answer at this time. There is something there, but we'll need to test more to get those answers. With that comes humbleness. You got to be humble. You got to understand that your idea may be too early. It may not fit. It may not be feasible. And as frustrating as it may be, at the time you need to take a step back and maybe pitch it again 6 months down the road, or sometimes pitch it differently. I say, with innovation, it's almost like teaching. A good teacher knows how to teach the same thing in different ways.
Yeah.
And a good innovators know how to pitch the idea in different ways. And one important thing I think, and we mentioned that in the past, is everybody like the next new shiny things. We're human beings. You like let's try that. It's the latest innovation. It may or may not be tasty. You may or may not buy it again. But with every category that is innovative, the novelty will wear off in a matter of time. A year, 2 years, 5 years. You need to also think forward. So when you plan on innovations, when you think about, this is the next big thing, how will it look like when the novelty will wear off? How do you sustain your space in the market when it becomes more ambiguous rather than innovative? How do you build upon that? Maybe not as first step, because first step is concentrating on the resources, but have this line of thinking of we can do this, but if that works, it can lead to. I think anything that leads to something bigger will always have more appeal. And I would always say, bring it to life as much as you can. Mm-hmm. Things on paper work. It's one dimension.
Love it.
So, just bring it to life. If you cannot bring it to life, team up with people that can, and make it a full sensorial experience.
Great. Wow. Great tips that are going to be very, very beneficial for a lot of people that are here with us. So thank you. The big elephant in the room is, of course, food. So I want to know, what is your favorite dish to cook?
Oh, wow. Nobody asks a chef what their favorite dish to cook, because it's never one. It always,
Oops.
Really, it always changes. I think, we have obviously our favorite foods, but I think through myself and my colleagues, what we see is we evolve. So as food evolves, as the industry evolves, we evolve, and with that, our preference of what to cook. I would say that I always believe that the secret is in the sauce. So, I like to cook everything and anything, but I really think it's the little nuances around your main event that make a difference. So this is always the challenge I like to tackle.
Great. Chef Einav Gefen, the corporate executive chef at Unilever Food Solutions in North America. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this information.
Pleasure.
It's been
Thank you.
It's been fantastic. And if you want to contact Einav and learn more from her, so she's of course available on LinkedIn, Einav Gefen. And I want to thank you for listening to us here at Innovation Makes You Sexy podcast, the only podcast that takes a look under the covers of corporate innovation. The Innovation Makes You Sexy podcast is brought to you by Duco Innovation Ecosystem Design. I'm your host, Liron Lichtman from the Human Factor.
Thank you, Liron.
Thank you. Bye.